The urn was warm in my hands, though I knew that made no sense. Ceramic didn't hold heat like that. Maybe it was the late afternoon sun. Maybe it was grief. I stepped into the office wearing the same black dress I'd worn that morning at the cemetery, the hem still faintly damp from kneeling by my mother's headstone. I hadn't planned on coming in, but Grant had insisted it was just a quick check-in. I should have known better. "Jade," he said, rising from behind his glass desk, all artificial warmth and managerial sympathy. "You didn't have to come in today." I didn't answer. I just nodded and took the seat across from him, careful to set the urn down on my lap, both hands still curled around it. He gestured vaguely toward it, then thought better of it. "I know this must be a difficult time." Understatement of the year. "I'll get right to it," he continued, smoothing his tie like it was a nervous tic. "The company's been evaluating its staffing needs, and unfortunately, your position is being impacted." I blinked. Once. "We're restructuring operations, streamlining." He smiled as if that word was meant to comfort me. "Budget cuts, you understand, it's not personal." I said nothing. "Of course your severance will reflect your time here. 12 years. And HR will be reaching out this week with paperwork." My fingers tightened slightly around the urn, not enough to draw attention, just enough to ground myself. "We're moving in a more dynamic direction," he added. "New energy. It's what the market demands." That was the moment I realized he wasn't nervous. He was proud of this. He thought he was doing me a favor, freeing me up to grieve like a good little woman. I stood slowly, balancing the urn with practiced grace. "Thanks for the clarity," I said evenly. He nodded, relieved. "You're handling this with real professionalism, Jade." I smiled. Sharp, clean. "You'll see how professional I can be." Then I walked out, still carrying my mother's ashes, still dressed in funeral black, leaving behind the only job I'd ever let take more from me than it gave. And Grant? He thought it was over, but it was just the beginning. It came in at 11:42 p.m., just as I was brushing my teeth in the dim light of my bathroom. Subject, Jade Whitman termination. From grant.elliott@quantrexsolutions.com to hdirect@quantrexsolutions.com. I clicked before thinking, assuming it was HR follow-up, but the body of the email told a different story. "We need someone younger and more energetic in that role. Her grief will only slow the team down. Let's finalize the exit paperwork by Friday. No need to drag this out." I stared at the screen, toothbrush frozen halfway to my mouth. Wrong recipient. Or maybe just arrogance. He probably thought I wouldn't check my email this late, or that I wouldn't notice what he really meant. Budget cuts. Dynamic direction. All code for, we don't want to deal with her grief wrinkles and quiet. I took a screenshot, then another. Forwarded it to a private folder labeled JWH-FIRE. Clean, clinical, necessary. The toothbrush dropped into the sink with a soft clink. I had been calm all day. Too calm. My body was still moving on autopilot, my face still stretched into the polite expressions I wore for family, co-workers, strangers who said she lived a good life. But now, something cracked. Not loud, not dramatic, just a shift. Like a steel cable tightening in my spine. I opened another folder on my desktop, pulled up the project timeline for the proprietary system I'd spent 2 years developing, on my own time, using my own tools, long before Grant decided it was his idea. They thought I was too tired, too broken to fight, that firing me with a eulogy still echoing in my ears would leave me curled up and quiet. They forgot who taught me how to survive. My mother raised me to hold my head high in storms and build in silence. So that's what I would do. Quietly, precisely. And when the dust settled, they'd understand. You don't bury a woman like me. You light the match and pray you're not standing too close when the fire spreads. The silence in the office was louder than any farewell speech could have been. No one said a word as I walked down the hallway to my office, a cardboard box under one arm and the urn still in the other. I'd come to pack what was mine, not that I needed much. A photo of my mother, a stack of notebooks with handwriting only I could decipher, a coffee mug that said, "Calm is a power." I moved slowly, deliberately. No one made eye contact, not the interns I'd trained, not the managers I'd coached, not even the director of finance whose job I'd saved 3 quarters ago by catching a payroll error before it hit the board. Cowards. Tanya hovered in the doorway, clutching a folder like a shield. Her glossy hair was too perfect for a Monday, her nervous energy practically vibrating off her. "I didn't know," she said quickly, her voice a whisper like she was telling me a secret and an apology all at once. I raised an eyebrow. "About the promotion," she added, eyes darting toward the glass wall separating us from the rest of the floor. "He told me last week, before you came back, that there'd be a vacancy soon." Vacancy, like I was a hotel room someone forgot to check out of. "I didn't apply for it, Jade, I swear." I smiled. Not bitter, just tired. "You don't have to explain." Tanya looked like she wanted to crawl under her blazer. "He said the team needs new energy, a different kind of leadership." I set the photo of my mother gently in the box. "Good luck," I said simply. Her eyes widened. "That's it." That's it. I didn't tell her that I'd already met with my lawyer, that I had the email, the paper trail, the plan. I didn't need to. Because what Tanya didn't know, and what Grant would soon learn, is that while they were grooming her to inherit my title, I was busy reclaiming my name, and I had no intention of leaving quietly. The law office was minimalist in a way that cost money. Clean lines, matte black fixtures, a receptionist who offered espresso like it was water. "Ms. Whitman, he'll see you now." I stepped into a corner office where sunlight glinted off glass and steel. Daniel Reyes, employment attorney, late 40s, precise, with the kind of calm that told me he was used to handling rich men who thought NDAs were get-out-of-jail-free cards. I handed him a flash drive and a printed folder, emails, policies, performance reviews that read indispensable and irreplaceable, right up until the week I buried my mother. He read in silence, occasionally raising an eyebrow. "And this is the NDA?" he asked, tapping the document Grant had slid across his desk like a favor. I nodded. Daniel flipped to page 7. "Here's the poison pill. Clause 14.2. If you sign this, you waive your right to pursue litigation, public or private, for any reason related to your termination." I said nothing. Classic overreach. They're banking on you being too grief-stricken to notice. He looked up. "You noticed?" "I always notice." He smiled. Not patronizing, respectful. "You have a case. Age discrimination, wrongful dismissal, potentially retaliation if we dig deep enough." He tapped the folder again. "And if that system you built is as valuable as I think it is, we might have leverage far beyond a settlement." I leaned back in the chair, the weight in my chest easing just slightly. "Should I sign it?" I asked. He laughed once. "Only if you want to kiss your rights goodbye." I reached for the pen sitting on the edge of his desk, turned it once between my fingers, then slid it back toward him. "I'm not signing anything," I said. He nodded approvingly. "Want me to send them a notice?" "Not yet." He looked curious. "I need more time." Because I wasn't just building a case, I was building momentum, and when I struck, it would be clean, devastating, undeniable. The idea had come to me at 3 a.m. years ago, when the company was bleeding efficiency and no one seemed to know how to plug the holes. I remember sitting at my kitchen table, laptop open, scribbling workflows on the back of a grocery receipt because I couldn't sleep until I fixed it. It wasn't part of my job, not officially, but solving problems had always been a reflex. The result was a custom operations system, lean, scalable, intuitive. It cut departmental lag by 28% in its first quarter alone. Client churn dropped, margins jumped. And Grant? He presented it to the board like it was born in a strategy meeting, his leadership, his innovation. I stood at the back of the conference room that day, clapping like everyone else while my work was paraded around with someone else's name on it. I should have said something, should have pushed harder, but I was younger then, still believing recognition would come if I just stayed patient. Daniel sat across from me now, flipping through the development logs I'd pulled from a long-forgotten external hard drive. "You built all of this on your personal laptop?" he asked, skimming my earliest drafts. "Every line. Timestamps are clean. No overlap with your official work hours. No company equipment. This changes things." I pulled out a printed draft, the very first concept sketch. The header still read, "Project Opal." My mother had helped me name it, said it sounded like something strong disguised as something beautiful. Daniel leaned back in his chair, smiling for real this time. "They thought they owned your brain," he said. "Turns out they didn't even rent it." I nodded slowly, feeling something I hadn't in weeks. Power. They took credit for what I built. Now I'd take it back. And this time, my name wouldn't be left off the title slide. It started with coffee. An old coworker named Lila texted me after seeing my quiet update on LinkedIn. Former senior ops manager, open to new opportunities. We met at a quiet cafe, 2 towns over. She looked tired in a way I recognized, the kind of tired that doesn't sleep off. "I left a year ago," she said, fingers wrapped around her mug. "Couldn't take it anymore." I asked why. She hesitated, then she talked. Stories spilled out, weekly performance chats where Grant nitpicked nothing, projects reassigned without warning, gaslighting disguised as feedback, and when she finally burned out, HR called it a personal issue. "You're not the first," she told me, "and you won't be the last." So I started documenting. Every story, every name. I kept it clinical, dates, job titles, circumstances. A spreadsheet began to form. Tasha from marketing, Kyle from data, Arjun from client relations, one by one, like breadcrumbs on a trail of quiet exits. Then came the call that shifted everything. Miriam, a former HR manager, now consulting freelance. She'd heard I was building something. "I have documents," she said bluntly. He falsified performance reviews, claimed declining engagement for top performers. I flagged it. They told me to drop it. She sent over a folder titled Termination Trends Q4. Inside, glowing peer reviews alongside final HR notations like poor team collaboration and lacks flexibility. Fabricated justifications. He wanted turnover to look strategic, she told me, said it made the org chart leaner for acquisition talks. I added it all to the file, not just my case anymore, a pattern. Because one wrongful termination could be explained away, but 10, 15, that's not a mistake, that's a method, and I was about to expose it. It was buried deep in a shared drive I was never supposed to access, one of those folders with an innocuous label like Q3 planning decks that only the executive team ever opened. Miriam sent it to me late one night with no subject line, just a single sentence. Found what you're looking for. The file was a PowerPoint, 56 slides long, titled Streamlining Talent for Strategic Acquisition. I opened it slowly, each slide like a shovel turning up dirt on a freshly dug grave. There I was on slide 14, Senior Staff Expenditure Analysis, redundant positions, Jade Whitman, high salary, mid-management overlap. No mention of my system, no mention of my results, just a neat little bullet point. Projected cost savings, $138,000 annually. They had been clearing the decks for a sale, not performance-related, not grief-related, just numbers in a column someone wanted to trim. The next few slides mapped it out like a blueprint for betrayal. Early retirements encouraged. Underperformers identified, see Appendix B. Culture refresh, Promote younger talent into strategic-facing roles. Culture refresh. They weren't just streamlining, they were scrubbing the company clean of anyone with a memory longer than a fiscal quarter. It wasn't just me. They were methodically gutting the heart of the place. And they thought no one would notice. I saved the deck twice. Once in the cloud, once on an encrypted drive. Then I stared at the final slide. A vision of the future. Lean, agile, market ready. What it really meant, disposable. They thought cutting me made them agile. They were about to find out what it feels like to be haunted. Elena's voice hadn't changed. Confident, wry. The kind of voice that made you feel like the smartest version of yourself just by being near it. She picked up on the first ring. I was wondering how long it would take you to call. We met for lunch at a place that didn't have menus, just concept dishes and servers with earpieces. She ordered for both of us like always. I heard about what happened, she said, eyes sharp. Grant always was a smug little tyrant. I smiled. He's gotten worse. Elena was VP now at Vera Nova, a leaner, faster firm that had been snapping up market share like a game of Monopoly. She'd always appreciated talent others overlooked, especially mine. "So what's next?" she asked over grilled fennel and microgreens. "I've been consulting, quietly, documenting things." She leaned forward. "You still have the Opal prototype?" I nodded. "And I've made improvements." Her eyes lit up. "I've got a product launch window opening in 6 months. Want to consult?" I didn't hesitate. "Yes, but I have one condition." She arched an eyebrow. "I want to build it better this time. Smarter, cleaner." I paused. "And I want my name on it. This time, I get the credit." She grinned. "Deal. I'll have legal draft the paperwork tonight." We clinked glasses over a bottle of wine that cost more than Grant's suit jacket. She didn't ask what I was planning. Didn't need to. Elena always understood something Grant never did. I wasn't someone you cut loose. I was someone you built with. Chapter 9. Strategic Silence. Grant posted a photo on LinkedIn. He was standing next to Tanya in the conference room, the same one where he'd handed me my walking papers while I cradled my mother's ashes. His hand rested on her shoulder, that practiced corporate smile on full display. "Leadership isn't always easy," the caption read. "Sometimes it means making hard calls to create space for fresh vision. Join me in congratulating Tanya Blake on her well-earned promotion to Senior Operations Manager." He made it sound like evolution, like I'd been a stepping stone in someone else's destiny. I didn't comment, didn't like, didn't share. I just watched, silently. That was the hardest part, doing nothing when everything inside me wanted to scream. But strategic silence wasn't passive. It was deliberate. While Grant posted selfies and empty leadership platitudes, I was working with Elena's team at Vera Nova, rebuilding my system from the ground up. The new iteration, OpalCore, was faster, more adaptable, with layers of customization Grant's team would never have the vision to match. We embedded predictive analytics, integrated cross-platform compatibility, and wrapped it all in a UX that made operations feel like intuition. Elena gave me full autonomy. Weekly check-ins turned into brainstorms, and the respect in her voice every time she said, "Doctor." Whitman was something I hadn't realized I missed. Each time I pushed a new build to the dev environment, I imagined Grant scrolling through LinkedIn, certain I'd faded into irrelevance. He had no idea that I was back in the game, that I was designing the very thing that would leave his company scrambling, that I was preparing to make him irrelevant. Quietly, precisely, without a single wasted move. Let him believe he'd won. It would make the fall that much harder when the silence finally broke. It started with an unexpected message. "Kyle, Data Ops. Subject, leaving Quantrex. Hey Jade, just wanted you to know I handed in my notice. Things haven't been the same since you left. No leadership, just directives. Felt wrong, felt small, thought you'd like to know." 1 week later, another. "Arjun, Client relations. I'm out too. No support, no strategy, just chaos wearing a necktie. You deserve better. So do we. By the end of the month, 4 more had left. Grant's top tier was unraveling like a cheap hem. And then Tanya messaged. Her name on my phone made me pause. I almost didn't open it. I don't know how you did it. Everyone expects me to fix what I was never trained for. Grant doesn't meet with me unless there's a fire. I think I made a mistake. I typed slowly, carefully. You're smart. Don't let them use you like they did me. Her typing bubble appeared, then disappeared. No reply. But I didn't need one. Tanya had just seen what it felt like to inherit a role without power, a title without protection. And deep down, she finally understood. I hadn't been dead weight. I had been the foundation. And now that they'd cut me out, the whole thing was starting to sink. It hit the wire on a Tuesday morning, a headline buried on the front page of TechScope Weekly, the kind of industry newsletter executives scan during overpriced coffee runs. Streamlining or sabotage inside the targeted firings at Quantrex Solutions. The byline was familiar. A journalist known for digging deep and playing fair. The kind of writer who didn't publish until the receipts were airtight. And the receipts were brutal. The story didn't name names, but the evidence spoke volumes. A leaked email from an executive to HR describing a senior staffer as grief-distracted and expendable. An internal slide deck detailing plans to eliminate high-salary staff to prep for a more attractive acquisition. Anonymous testimonies from former employees describing a toxic culture. Falsified reviews and targeted exits. The slide deck was the smoking gun. Every bullet point a carefully worded indictment. Refresh culture through talent turnover. Prioritize youth in leadership visibility roles. No one needed to guess who they were talking about. I watched the article spread like spilled ink, getting reposted across LinkedIn, Reddit, even Twitter threads labeled number Quantrex leak. And through it all, I stayed silent. No comments, no clarifications. My name wasn't in the article. That was on purpose. This wasn't about revenge. It was about exposure. Let the world see the rot I'd been living under. Let them connect the dots on their own. Because once truth goes public, it doesn't need a signature. It just needs oxygen. By Thursday, the acquisition was off. Vanguard Partners, Quantrex's prospective buyer, released a carefully worded statement about reevaluating synergies in light of recent developments. Translation: they didn't want to touch a scandal with that much traction. The stock dipped 11% by closing bell. Friday morning, HR announced a full internal audit. Compliance review, they called it, but the hallways were silent and the glass conference rooms filled with nervous whispers. Grant canceled his usual all hands, unusual for a man who loved the sound of his own voice. He tried to get ahead of it, of course. Posted a long-winded letter on LinkedIn about the challenges of transformative leadership and how not everyone understands the tough calls that come with building future-ready organizations. The comments were ruthless. Leadership doesn't mean silencing your veterans. This reads like spin. Sounds like you got caught cleaning house with a flamethrower. By Monday, the board was asking questions. Hard ones. And not the kind Grant could bluff his way through with buzzwords and forced charm. Because once investors start pulling out and employees stop staying quiet, all the polished slides in the world can't save you. They'd built a graveyard. Now they were the ones getting buried in it. It dropped at exactly 9 a.m. on a Wednesday. The timing was strategic, just before market open, early enough to catch the inboxes of every executive, investor, and vendor on the West Coast. Press release: Vera Nova launches OpalCore, spearheaded by new Chief Strategy Officer Dr. Jade Whitman. There it was, in bold text, my name. Not hidden in the acknowledgments, not mentioned offhand, front and center, where it had always belonged. The release was clean and measured. It outlined how OpalCore was built on principles of transparency, adaptability, and employee-centric design. It boasted a 34% efficiency boost over existing models and had already attracted interest from 3 major enterprise clients. But it was the quote that caught fire. "Innovation only thrives where people are respected." Dr. Jade Whitman. By noon, the article had been reposted by every tech outlet from Wired to Forbes. My inbox flooded with interview requests, speaking invitations, and messages from engineers who said they'd followed my career since the first quiet rumors of that ops manager who actually knew what she was doing. Quantrex didn't issue a public response, but I knew they saw it. Their system, the one built off the early bones of my design, now had a superior rival. And the industry knew exactly who was behind it. Not a team, not a division, not some vague leadership initiative. Me. This wasn't revenge. This was recognition. The kind that sticks. The wind rolled soft over the hills as I stepped onto the overlook, urn in hand. 1 year, 12 months since I'd walked out of that office with my mother's ashes cradled like armor. 12 months since Grant tried to make me disposable, since the world told me to sit down and grieve quietly. I unscrewed the lid and sat for a while, legs dangling over the edge of the hill that had been my mother's favorite view. She'd always said the best kind of strength was the quiet kind, the kind that didn't need to shout to be heard. "You always told me I deserved better," I said aloud, the wind catching strands of my hair, lifting the hem of my coat. "I finally believed you." The ashes scattered slowly, drifting into the air like soft silver. I watched until the last of them disappeared, not with sorrow, but with peace. Because this wasn't about revenge anymore. It never really was. It was about rebuilding what they tried to strip from me. Dignity, purpose, identity. I didn't burn the system down. I built something stronger beside it. And in doing so, I found myself again, whole, named, free. The email went out on a Friday evening. Strategic timing, designed to make sure it landed softly, unnoticed. But the industry noticed. After 6 years with Quantrex Solutions, Grant Elliott will be stepping down from his role as CEO, effective immediately. No farewell post, no staged photo with the board. Just a quiet exit slipped under the door while no one was looking. But people were looking. The final audit had done what the rumors and resignations couldn't. Human resources discrepancies, mishandled terminations, performance review manipulation, a pattern of conduct so flagrant even Quantrex's PR team couldn't spin it. The company's stock barely moved. They'd already lost what made them valuable. Meanwhile, Vera Nova was hiring, expanding, thriving. Tanya's resignation came on a Tuesday. No drama, no fuss, just a direct message that said, "You were right. I'm done being someone's placeholder. I want to build something real." I onboarded her myself. She started the following Monday as our new lead implementation strategist. Her first task? Helping shape the training protocols for our new junior dev program. "I want them to understand more than code," she told me. "I want them to know how to protect themselves." I smiled. She was learning fast. Each week, I sat down with a different cohort of interns and new hires, bright-eyed women fresh out of university or transitioning careers. I taught them the systems, yes, but also the strategies. How to document their work, how to ask for credit, how to own their value in rooms designed to overlook them. One of them asked me recently, "How did you come back after everything they did to you?" I looked around at my office, the framed press release, the sunlight pouring over whiteboards filled with new ideas, Tanya laughing down the hall with the engineering team. And I said simply, I didn't come back. I built forward. Because the truth is, they never broke me. They underestimated me. They tried to strip me down, silence me, erase the work I'd poured my soul into. They tried to bury me, but I was the seed.